I'm at my desk. The screen glows, a familiar rectangle of light in the dim office. Another video loads, its progress bar crawling. My fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to categorize, to flag. This is my task, every day. The office is quiet, just the low hum of servers and the distant, rhythmic clatter of keys from other cubicles. A chill seems to cling to the air. I rug the smooth, cold brass key in my pocket. Its familiar weight, a small, grounding comfort. The video begins to play. It's a mundane clip at first, a street scene. A woman walks a small dog. A delivery truck rumbles past. Then, the camera pans, a slow, deliberate sweep. It stops. It focuses on a window. My apartment window. I lean closer, a cold knot forming in my stomach. The angle is impossible. This video is filmed from across the street, high up, directly into my living room. I see myself in the video. I'm sitting on my couch, reading a book. The timestamp on the video is from last night. I remember that moment. I remember the book. My breath hitches. The camera zooms in, slowly, steadily. It focuses on my face. My eyes in the video are wide, staring directly at the lens, at me. A faint smile plays on my video self's lips. It's not my smile. It's too wide, too still. The shadows in my video room are wrong, stretching and twisting like liquid. They seem to reach out from the screen. I didn't move. I just watched, my hand tightening around the key, the metal digging into my palm. The video continues to play, a silent loop of myself, filmed from an impossible vantage, smiling an impossible smile. I tried to push the video from my mind. The impossible smile, the wrong shadows. My task remained. I had other videos to categorize, other mundane moments to flag. I clicked to the next file, forcing my gaze away from the looping image of myself. The screen glowed, a new street scene appearing. But the office felt different now. The low hum of the servers seemed to pulse, not steadily, but with an uneven beat. A soft creak echoed from down the hall. It was the door to the supply closet, I thought, but no one had gone in there. Then the fluorescent light directly above my cubicle flickered. Once. Twice. It settled back into its steady, buzzing glow, but the brief darkness left an imprint. I reached for my coffee mug, my hand brushing against the empty space where it should have been. I had just set it down. I looked around my small desk. It wasn't there. A moment later, I saw it. It sat on the edge of my keyboard, turned slightly, as if someone had just placed it there. The coffee was still warm. I didn't move. My breath felt shallow. The air around me grew colder, a distinct chill that didn't match the office thermostat. I could feel it on my neck, a prickling sensation. It felt like a presence, closer now than before. I tightened my grip on the brass key in my pocket, its cold metal a small, sharp comfort against the growing unease. I knew what I was seeing. I knew it wasn't right. The video still played on my second monitor, a silent, smiling loop. The cold air intensified, raising goosebumps on my arms. I could still feel the prickling on my neck, a sensation like someone was breathing just behind me. The video on my second monitor continued its silent loop, my impossible self smiling. I didn't want to look at it, but my eyes kept drifting back. As I stared at the screen, at my own reflected face, something shifted in the periphery. A dark, elongated shape, like a shadow detaching itself from from the wall behind me. It moved too quickly, too smoothly, a ripple in the air. My head snapped around, a sharp, involuntary movement. Nothing. Just the empty cubicle wall, the dull beige fabric. The fluorescent light above me hummed, steady for now. I blinked, trying to clear my vision, wondering if the flickering light had played a trick on my tired eyes. I almost dismissed it, but then I saw it. On the wall, precisely where the shadow had seemed to pass, a faint smear. It was a dark, oily residue, like soot, but it shimmered with an unnatural, almost iridescent quality under the fluorescent light. It wasn't there a moment ago. The mark was distinct, a vertical streak about a foot long, just above my eye level. My fingers tightened around the brass key in my pocket, the cold metal a stark contrast to the sudden heat in my chest. The air grew even colder, and the hum of the servers seemed to drop to a lower, more guttural thrum, a sound that vibrated through the floor. The impossible smile on the screen seemed wider now, fixed on me, knowing. I didn't move. I just watched the shimmering smear, knowing it was real. The shimmering smear on the wall seemed to pulse faintly, drawing my gaze from the impossible smile on my screen. The low thrum of the servers deepened, vibrating through the floor, then through my chair. It felt less like a hum and more like a guttural growl. My coffee mug, half full, began to slide across my desk, slowly at first, then picking up speed. It didn't fall. It launched itself, hitting the cubicle wall opposite with a wet thud. Coffee splattered, leaving a dark splattered painting, heating several parts, steaming stain. I gasped, pulling back, my hand clamping around the brass key in my pocket. This wasn't a draft. This wasn't fatigue. A sharp, metallic ping echoed from the next cubicle, followed by a series of rapid rhythmic taps, like tiny hammers striking glass. I tried to tell myself it was just the building settling, or a loose pipe, but the sound was too precise, too deliberate. My coworker Mark suddenly appeared at my cubicle entrance. His eyes were rolled back, a fixed, unsettling smile stretched across his face. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. Rule: the unseen will always leave a mark. He blinked, his expression clearing instantly, then turned and walked away without another glance. I watched him go, then looked at the coffee stain, the still vibrating floor, and the oily smear on the wall. My heart hammered against my ribs. The fear was a cold, sharp point in my chest. This was all real. The rhythmic tapping from Mark's cubicle intensified, no longer tiny hammers, but a heavy, deliberate thump, 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 like something dragging itself across the floor. My gaze snapped to the cubicle wall, the thin partition suddenly feeling flimsy. The air grew colder, a deep, penetrating chill that made my teeth ache. I could feel the vibrations in my chest now. A low, resonant hum that wasn't the servers. It was closer. My hand clenched the brass key in my pocket. Its cold weight, a small anchor in the rising tide of dread. I didn't move. I just watched the wall, my breath held tight in my lungs. Then, a shadow detached itself from the corner of Mark's cubicle. It wasn't a normal shadow. It was too dense, too black, absorbing the dim office light. It stretched impossibly long, then began to coalesce, pulling itself inward. It didn't have a distinct shape, more like a shifting mass of wrong angles and absent light. I saw no eyes, no limbs, just a void that seemed to press against the air. It moved with a sickening, liquid grace, flowing over the cubicle wall, not climbing but simply extending itself. As it passed, the fluorescent light directly above Mark's desk flickered, then died with a soft pop, plunging his space into deeper gloom. The rhythmic thumping stopped. A faint, acrid smell, like ozone mixed with something metallic, filled my cubicle. The shadow paused, hovering just beyond my line of sight, a silent, watchful presence. I could feel its coldness, a tangible weight. It left behind a faint, shimmering trail on the top edge of the cubicle wall, like oil on water, slowly fading but undeniably there. I knew it had seen me. I knew it was still here. The acrid smell intensified, clinging to my throat. I could still feel the shadow's cold weight, a silent pressure just beyond the partition. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum against the quiet hum of the office. My hand tightened around the brass key, its sharp edge digging into my palm, a small, welcome pain. I needed to move. I needed to get out. Slowly, carefully, I began to push my chair back, aiming for the aisle, for the exit. As the wheels barely scraped the carpet, the shadow shifted. It didn't move fast, but with an unnerving, deliberate grace. A part of it, a thin, dark tendril, flowed over the cubicle wall, extending directly towards the office door, settling across the handle. It was like a silent, impossible lock. My breath hitched. It knew. It was anticipating. From Mark's darkened cubicle, a low, guttural sound emerged. I froze. Mark's head slowly rose above the partition. His eyes were rolled back, showing only white, and a wide, unsettling smile stretched his lips. His voice, when it came, was flat, devoid of his usual cadence, a strange echo in the silent office. The rule is simple, TVERO. What is seen must be acknowledged. What is acknowledged must be faced. He held the gaze for a moment, then his eyes snapped back to normal. The smile vanished, and he slumped back into his chair, a soft sigh escaping his lips. He began typing again. The rhythmic clatter, resuming as if nothing had happened. But something had. The shadow on the door handle pulsed faintly, a deeper black against the dim light. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was waiting, and I was trapped. The shadow pulsed on the door handle, a deeper black that seemed to drink the dim office light. My breath hitched. I was trapped. The air grew colder, a sharp, biting chill that seeped into my bones, far beyond the usual office draft. This was different. I could feel a silent weight pressing against my back, even though nothing was there. My skin prickled. The low hum of the server seemed to fade, replaced by a deep, resonant thrum. It wasn't a sound I heard with my ears. It was a feeling. A vibration that settled in my chest, a low, unsettling frequency. My hand tightened around the brass key in my pocket, its sharp edge digging into my palm, a small, welcome pain. The shadow on the door handle began to stretch, slowly, like thick, dark oil. It didn't just cover the handle anymore. It flowed along the doorframe, reaching towards the wall, towards me. A tendril, impossibly thin, detached itself from the main mass. It moved with an unnerving grace. A dark whisper across the carpet, silent and deliberate. It was coming. I didn't move. I couldn't. The tendril reached my cubicle wall, then flowed over it, a silent, dark stream. It didn't touch me, not yet, but I felt its presence. A cold, dry pressure against my cheek, like a breath I couldn't see. A whisper of impossible air. My eyes tracked its movement, unable to look away. It was undeniable. It was here. It was waiting. The tendril's cold pressure lingered, a silent hum inside my head. Every shadow in the office seemed to deepen, shifting, blurring the edges of my vision. The fluorescent lights flickered, not visibly, but in the corner of my perception. I pressed the brass key hard into my palm, its sharp edge a familiar comfort against the phantom chill. My old scar, tracing a jagged line from my wrist to my elbow, began to ache. A dull throb, mirroring the unseen vibration in my chest. This was a physical reminder. My mind wasn't playing tricks. The world felt thin, stretched. My focus shattered. I felt eyes on me. Not human, but something vast and cold, watching from the spaces between cubicles, from the ceiling. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken presence. I wanted to scream, to run, but knew it would only draw more attention. Suddenly, Mark from the next cubicle stood. His eyes were wide, rolled back, a fixed, unsettling smile. His voice, usually gruff, was smooth, melodic. "Rule number 7, he intoned, gaze fixed on nothing. The unseen always leaves a mark. Always." He blinked, the smile vanished, and sat down, resuming his typing. I didn't move. I watched him, then my hand, at the faint red line the key had left. The scar on my arm throbbed. He was right. It always did. The tendril was gone, but the cold, dry pressure remained. A phantom touch, a promise. I knew it was still here. I just couldn't see it. Dread was a constant companion now, a low hum beneath my skin. The phantom hum in my head faded. The cold pressure eased, slowly, like a tide receding from a shore. The fluorescent lights steadied, their hum now just a background drone. The shadows seemed to retract, pulling back into their corners, no longer stretching with impossible angles. Mark continued typing, oblivious, the rhythmic clatter of his keys a mundane comfort. The vast, cold eyes I'd felt watching me seemed to blink away, leaving only the familiar, empty spaces between cubicles. I took a slow, shaky breath, the air no longer thick with unseen presence, but just cool and dry. My hand still clutched the brass key, its sharp edge leaving a deep red crescent on my palm. The scar on my arm, from wrist to elbow, still throbbed, a dull, persistent ache that mirrored the memory of the tendril's touch. It was gone, yes, but the feeling of it, the dry, cold pressure, lingered like a phantom limb. A fragile sense of relief washed over me, a brief respite from the suffocating dread. But it wasn't true peace. This wasn't an ending. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was pregnant with expectation. The world hadn't snapped back to normal. It had merely paused. The unseen always leaves a mark, Mark had said, and it had. The ache in my scar, the imprint of the key, the lingering chill in the air, these were not just memories. They were promises. I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that this was only a temporary withdrawal. It would be back. It always was. I just had to wait and watch. The task remained. The screen still glowed. The phantom hum in my head had faded, leaving only the dull throb of the scar on my arm, a persistent line from wrist to elbow. My fingers still curled around the brass key, its sharp edge a familiar comfort, a small physical anchor in a world that refused to stay still. The office lights hummed steady now, no longer flickering, with impossible shadows that stretched and twisted. Mark typed on, oblivious, his rhythmic clatter a constant, maddening reminder of a normacy I no longer shared. The vast, cold eyes I'd felt watching me had receded, but the feeling of their presence lingered, a dry, cold pressure on my skin, a phantom touch. This wasn't an ending. It was never an ending. I knew the pattern now, a cycle as predictable as the sun, yet infinitely more terrifying. The entity would withdraw, leaving its marks, its echoes, its promises. It would leave me to process the impossible, to catalog the unexplainable, to pretend the world was sane. Then, when I least expected it, when the fragile sense of peace began to settle, it would return. It always did. The relief I felt was structural, not emotional. A brief pause in a relentless, inescapable cycle. The task remained. The screen still glowed, waiting for the next impossible image, the next impossible distortion. I was just waiting for the next wave. The horror wasn't an event. It was the air I breathed. It was permanent. It was me.